Hello and welcome to this episode of Crossing Borders with Nathan Lustig, where I have conversations with entrepreneurs doing business across borders and the people who support them, with a focus on those with some connection to Latin America. My guest today is Ignacio Guglielmetti, an Argentine entrepreneur who is the co-founder of Cuida Mi Mascota, an Airbnb for pets in Latin America. Originally from Buenos Aires, Ignacio studied in Holland after working in management consulting in Argentina and decided to go into starting a business. He worked part-time on his startup while working at the management consultancy, even asking for extra bathroom breaks to answer his startup email before going all in on the food delivery startup Cinimantes in 2012. Ignacio and his partners raised money from Startup Chile, venture capitalists, and angel investors, and later merged with Se Me Antojo, a Mexican food delivery startup that was in 500 startups in Mountain View. They were later acquired by Delivery Hero. 6 months later, Ignacio and his business partner Olga started Cuida Mi Mascota in Mexico, which now operates in 20 cities in Latin America, Mexico, Argentina, and Brazil. We talk about marketplaces, raising money, acquiring a business to get into the Brazilian market, and Ignacio's decision to start angel investing on this episode of Crossing Borders. I hope you enjoy it. Hey, Ignacio, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being willing to do it.
Hi, Nathan. Thank you for inviting me.
No, of course. I'm excited to talk with you. So where are you in the world today?
I'm in Sao Paulo, Brazil, working in Cuida Mi Mascota and Pet Anjo is the name in Brazil because we acquired this local company. We are originally from Mexico and we operate also in Argentina and Puerto Rico.
And what does your business do?
Yeah, so we are an Airbnb for pets. So when you have to travel or you have to work or you need a walk for your dog, instead of leaving the dog or your pet or cat in a pet hotel, you leave it with another pet lover that is around you. That's why it's like an Airbnb for pets. So we connect pet owners with pet sitters.
And where are you from originally?
I'm from Argentina, from Buenos Aires.
So you really have been across borders if you've got business in Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, and Puerto Rico. How did you end up in all of those different places?
Okay. Well, when we were in my first startup, it was called Cinimanes. It was food delivery startup. Um, when we in 2013 we want to expand, but we didn't have enough money to expand. So we decided that the best strategy to do it was a merger. So we merged with a Mexican company called Se Me Antoja. And well, after a couple of months working together, we decided to do it. To do it. Um, well, so I moved like a couple of months to Mexico. Then my other partners went to Mexico also, and so that was my first moment where I live abroad. Well, when I studied in Holland, so there I also live abroad. And when we were acquired 1 year after with Olga, that was the one of the founders of Se Me Antoja, the Mexican company. We decided to keep working together, and we found Cuida Mi Mascota, the my current startup. So I lived there for 1 year and a half. In the middle, we were in the Parallel 18 accelerator of Puerto Rico. So I lived there for 2 months, and that's why we started operating there also. And then we acquired Petanjo in Brazil, and I'm in charge I'm like the country manager now of Petanjo in Brazil.
Very interesting. I want to jump into your story and the companies in just a bit, but I want to learn more about you first. So you're from Argentina. You studied in Holland. Where in Argentina are you from originally?
I'm from Buenos Aires. I lived there all my life until start moving along. I studied economics in Universidad de Tela. It's a good economy university, economics. and also master in finance, also in Ditela. Then I do these courses, like was 6 months after when I finished my master in finance in Holland, in Rotterdam, in a very good school called Erasmus University, in the Rotterdam School of Management. And I think there was when I start like thinking about entrepreneurship, because I took took a course of a class of entrepreneurship that in general are very strange classes, but it was very interesting, and I started liking entrepreneurship since there. I was 25, I think.
And why did you choose Erasmus in Holland as the place to study rather than somewhere else?
So this was an opportunity that my university in Buenos Aires has. They have like some relationships with another university, and and I was I wanted to study in Europe, and I went to the Financial Times ranking, and I saw that the best ones were HEC of Paris, and that was I think the first in those years, the number one in Europe, and then there was the number five was Erasmus University, but HEC was part in French, I think, so I decided to go to Erasmus.
And after you finished Erasmus, did you go straight into tech in a startup, or did you decide to work for a little while?
Now, before going there. I was 2 years, 3 years working management consulting. Um, then I went back to management consulting in Buenos Aires, and I tried to start some business in the middle, but I couldn't. I was not really. It was something that I never start actually. I tried something, but then I was in a company as a consultant, and one friend of mine that we have been talking to do something uh, anytime. He just came from the US where he studied, and he said that there were a food delivery startup there that was doing great. He always order from there. There was anything like that in Argentina, and we start. And he called me and said, "Do you want to do this?" Yes, let's do it. And I started. But it was like the first 6 months doing both, management consulting and the startup, and it was crazy time. Like, and I decided to quit the job. I thought one thing I would have done differently was like quit my job before, like when I started the company. It's too messy. You don't focus. So yeah.
And how long did it take for you to know that the food delivery business was going to be successful?
Well, we grew a lot the first 4 5 months. I I I think that there was so much work to do that that's why I decided. So I called one of my friends that was in the business also, but like more like a helper, and I said that has had more money than me. I said, "Hey, I will quit my job and we full time here in Cinemanes, but if we break we how do you say break
Go
we
bankrupt.
yeah go bankrupt. You pay my salary for a while," and he said yes. And that's why it was like one day, like one Friday, and I decided, and then I called my boss and said, "Okay, I'm out." But I think the business sent me to work full time because it was crazy. It was like saying to my boss, "Hey, can I go to the bathroom in the middle of a of a meeting?" And I was like answering emails from the my business. It was crazy.
And did you end up raising capital for that business?
Yes, we raised about 500K in US dollars. Um, Basically from 500 startup and next TP Labs. Then very small angel investor, friends and family.
And what was that process like raising money? This would have been in 2011, 12, something like that?
Yes, yes. So the last round was 2013. So we at the beginning we didn't know that this business needs that much money. We didn't know anything about tech startups. We just started. I think today there's much more knowledge about that. But in 2011 was like we just put our money, and then we saw that okay, we need more money, and we called the brother of one of the guys, and he put some more money. And I think when we changed our mind was we start reading about it. Um, with I remember like we received an email from a famous entrepreneur, and we talk more about how is to grow a startup, and he presented us to Next TP Labs, and then yeah we start the process of raising money like with institutions.
And did you end up participating in any accelerators?
Yeah, these are Next TP Labs. Um, and well, Semantoja was in 500 startups, and when we merged, we did part of the Semantoja program in Mountain View, in the 500 startup program in Mountain View. And the funny story is like, my partner in Semantoja was scared of flights, and he has to make the demo day. There were 3 demo days, like one in San Francisco, one in Mountain View, and one in New York, and we were not officially immersed. And I did the demo day in New York about his company because he was afraid of flying. And I
No,
remember all the people there, like Dave McClure and the Christine was like so scared.
yeah, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And did you do Startup Chile?
Yes, yes. Sorry, I forgot. I did Startup Chile actually. Yeah, before getting invested by Next Labs. Yeah, so I was first in Startup Chile and then in the Next Labs. Yes, in 2012. 12?
So
Yes, 2012.
so you did one equity free grant slash accelerator, one accelerator in the US, and then NXTP, was it an investment or
No,
part of an accelerator process?
actually, in the US, I was not really there. I was just in the demo day and some week more. But Next Labs, we were on all the process. So first was this Startup Chile, equity free, then Next Labs, and then this small. But I would consider that I wasn't there. I just did the demo day.
So can you compare and contrast at least Startup Chile and NXTP, and then maybe just what you heard from your partner in 500 about the pluses and minuses of, say, the equity free versus a Latin American accelerator versus a US accelerator?
Yes. So well, I was generation 4 in Startup Chile. So I think it was they were like changing. I think it has changed a lot. I think it's like generation 30 or something now. But I think the purpose of the Startup Chile was totally different of the purpose of the goal of Next TP Labs. Next TP Lab at the end is a venture capitalist, and they want to earn money, and there are less startups than in Startup Chile, and I think the batch was like 15. In Startup Chile was 100. So um, they are more focused on with less startups, and I feel they have more better connections in XTP Labs because Argentinian connections are Latin American because they have investors from everywhere in Latin America. Startup Chile is great. What I like a lot in Startup Chile was the network I found of there we have like 10 entrepreneurs that we are still friends. It was in 2012, and have doing really well, really good entrepreneurs they have been growing their startup that was in Startup Chile, or they have created a new one and they are doing really, really well. So I really like Startup Chile. Well, in the US, well, it's different. No, the numbers are different in the US, and they have more expertise in those. 500 startup uh, was more known globally, and they have great connections. And they have, in general, the US is like that. They have more connections with investors.
So back in 2014, there weren't that many companies in Latin America that were getting acquired. There's still relatively fewer in Latin America compared to the US, but you guys made it happen. How did you go about that process, and what happened during the acquisition?
So our competitor was acquired by our acquirer, like in December or November 2013. So we saw like they changed their like investment in marketing and all that, and presence in the media. And so we said, okay, we should raise a lot of money, and we started doing that. And but then our competitor called us and said, hey, are you interested to, actually the competitor and the delivery hero, and are you interested to get acquired? And well, we call another companies if they want to bid. They want the three companies were bidding, and we decided to sell it to Delivery Hero.
So you had the delivery hero was interested in potentially making an offer. How did you think about that process to go and talk to two other potential acquirers to get their offers as well?
So I knew them before this the other two one. Actually, with one we are like working a lot for 1 year. So it was pretty easy. I just sent an email to the people I know because I knew they are CEOs. Um, and it was super fast. Like in 1 week they answer yes, we want to bid, and the process was like 1 month, like bidding and then a long due diligence.
So, what would you recommend to other entrepreneurs that are maybe in markets that are starting to consolidate or thinking about consolidating in terms of staying in contact with other potential acquirers in the ecosystem?
Mm, I would recommend to know your competitors, or not competitors but potential competitors, because they are from another market, but I never know if they will start in your market. um, uh, for a lot of reasons, no, like a lot of times you can share like expertise, of the market, and also you get in the map of them. Like in general, like big companies have their like international office, then they research a lot, and they know, if you really grow, they will call you for sure, or they will know you. But maybe if you are not super big, it's good to talk to them, and someday you need to get acquired because you are running out of money, or or you need investment, like a strategic investment from them. If you know them for 1 year or 6 months, or it's easier to get funded or acquired than you start from zero. You know, it's harder. So I will recommend to know the people, but not like focusing a lot on knowing the other guy.
And throughout this whole process of doing management consulting and studying abroad and then starting a startup, what did your family and friends think when you were doing this rather than going down a more traditional path?
Well, my family thinks uh, like I think that in the moment we're like, oh, you shouldn't have to do that. Like I was doing a good career, and suddenly I was earning like nothing. and And that's for a while because like we never had like a good salary. But they support you because they saw you like working like crazy. I feel that I work much harder here than when I was a management consultant, and in general, management consulting is like a tough job, you know. Um, so and my friends were really happy. I remember when we acquired, we were acquired because they knew all the process. No, they saw me like working like crazy, and working like the operation people were absent during the weekends, and I was like using the telephone calling restaurants. Uh, well, so they were, yeah, they in general they support me a lot. Like I think my parents, I remember, like were like, you think you have to do this, and all. But and then when you were got acquired and you were successful in your first one, they obviously support you, and actually they want to invest you. Friends that they are not millionaires, like they have extra money, and like they trust you.
So when you were working just from Argentina, how did you decide to merge with somebody in Mexico, and what was that process like?
So in those years, so it was 2013. Argentina was very bad thing in the world. So anyone wants to invest in Argentina, like invest like venture capitalists or angel investors. So it was really hard to raise money. I remember like one mentor in XTP Lab said, "You should merge with another company outside, abroad." We have we tried with another one also. We didn't get along with the people, so we passed on. And then we knew we connect with this with Semantoja by they were in 500 startups and we were next to Pilar with two mentors. We start working like together, passing information like expertise, like knowledge and experience. And when we then I went 1 month to live in Mountain View with the people. We get along really well. So and then we talk with our investors if we merge they can follow one on us, and they said yes, and we yes we decide to merge. We get funded, and yeah, it was a really great process. And then after merge we do like some we understood the synergies, like where we can like have merge operations or technology. And that was a tough moment because we have to fire some people, hire some people, and but it was fun. But it was also very small time. It was less than 1 year because 5 months, to 4 months after the merge, we start the acquisition process.
And what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs that are maybe in smaller markets or difficult markets about trying to merge with someone doing the same thing in another region?
Well, I think you have to know which are your strengths. Um, like you have to see the okay. Either your traction is obviously super important. Then the addressable market is important in the discussion. So if you are in a small market, you have the downside there. Um, Technology is super important. Um, yeah, and another very important is the network. So I remember like the Mexicans had better network because there were more investors there. They were in 500 startup Mountain View. So that was a good point for us. The traction was better from us, much better. So that was a point for us. So it's like a negotiation, like all in life. But you have to understand what are your strengths and defend that in your negotiation.
So after getting acquired, how did you decide to start your next business, and how quickly did you do it?
So we start like evaluating other businesses. Actually, I started another one also, that then I didn't continue it, or was continued with by another partner. It was like a corner shop style. It was called Shoppers or Instacart, but I didn't like the marketing in Argentina of that business. Um, but then and also with Olga, we found this service super. We understand the problem that we were attacking, and because we have pets, we like to travel. We didn't like pet hotels, so this is a great opportunity. Let's do it. It was pretty fast. I actually we start like working on the company on February, and we finished. Well, like it's actually 6 months between when we totally finished with our previous company and we start this new one. Obviously, in February we start like modeling, and we launch on October, September of 2015. So it was from finishing and launching 1 year.
And did you evaluate other business ideas beyond the Instacart clone and the pets or Airbnb for pets? Were there any other ones that you looked into, or was it, you know what, we know this problem with pets, let's do it?
Yes, yes, I was. We start like actually we do the designs and with like uh, how is that hairdresser booking like
Hmm.
yeah. So, but because it was pretty similar or more or less like the food delivery, nothing to do at the end, no. But like a very spread market, so we start evaluating that, but then we see how was the competition in Sen, and there was some companies doing pretty well. Actually, I connect with one of them. I offer like an investment, and then it didn't happen. But I like friends with them, with the Reserva Turno guys. Um, um, but yeah, so it was that one that we like work something on that one, and I think no, the other one just was the idea and not anything more.
And what was the first step to getting started? Because marketplaces can be difficult, and maybe even more difficult in Latin America, matching supply and demand, especially in something where you need a lot of trust. So, where did you get started, and how did you go about building the two sides of the marketplace?
Well, in my first in food delivery was like it was harder at the beginning to get the restaurants because we didn't have anything. Um, but and we didn't know really how to uh, address them, like how to go to talk to them. So we started walking in the street, and it was a totally loss of time. Yeah, like months after we saw that it was much better calling restaurants, and the thing that was easier was that it was for free. So if you we said okay, if you get orders, we charge you. If not, no. But still was difficult because it was a for some restaurant owners was like a waste of time because they have to give us their menu. They have to understand the process. So it was hard, but you always get some like early adopters, and you start working with that early adopters, and when you get some traction, it just grow. That's the reason. In terms of the Airbnb, I think it was easier to get the sitters because you know the idea is to get extra money for taking care of pets. So a lot of people love to care of pets. So in that sense, was easier. Then it's harder to get the good sitters. So you have there like a screening process that is very important, and it's much harder than the restaurants. Um, On the other side, in the restaurant, it's easier to get the first customers because you are ordering a pizza or a hamburger. In the Airbnb for pets, you are living like your son, you know, to a people that you don't really know. So there is harder. So you start growing when you start having reviews or the word of mouth is growing. But you need like these early adopters to get adventurous and try this service.
So, what tactics did you use in Cuida Mi Mascota to get those first clients to trust you? Did you choose, say, one area in one city in one country, or did you open it up to anyone? How did you decide to do that, and what worked?
Well, so we started in Mexico City and Monterrey. Now we are in like more than 20 cities, but in 2015 we are there. Um, and what we did is we were very manually, like people like asking in the chat, or we put the telephone number and we WhatsApp, and the first one were like super manually. So we call the sitter and we call them the customer, the dog owner, and say, hey, blah blah blah, um, and it was actually not very tech. Uh, but with that, we get the first reviews. We keep calling these customers every time, like sending emails and calling them if you like the service. We improve all the things that they don't like it, or we start working a lot with the sitters also to to improve their service. And yeah, it was like the first 6 months was hard. Like if you see our curve, it's like the first was like very like growing small slow, and suddenly I think after passing the 6 months and the first like um, high season of tourism where the people travel, what was the first like bump in the curve of growth?
And how did you choose the next cities after your first two to expand? And how did you get to 20 cities?
So we saw that it was possible to expand along the country. So and we see the unit economics of opening a new city, and then we decide to grow fast in the new cities. Like we have so there is you have to invest quite a good money in new cities in a new city, because the city when they go to their city they look up in their city, and which sitters are they. If they don't see anyone, they are like scared to be there. Now in Mexico City we have 1,000 sitters. Like we have a lot of applicants. But if you when we started, I don't know, in Tijuana, was super hard the first sitters to get the first sitters. But you get to a moment that the it starts grows organically.
And talking about investment to get new sitters in each city, did you raise money for the business? And if so, how?
Yes, so we raised about 700K in different like 3 rounds. So we start with our own money, and when we saw like product market fit, we raised. Um, we were in 500 startups again in Mexico City, and some friends and family also. And then we raised for the last year. We raised a round with venture capitalists like Social Capital, Invariantes Fund from Guatemala, Acela Capital from Mexico, Toro Venture from Mexico, and then angel investors, but like real angel investors, no like friends and family, like people that we don't know. Um, yeah, so yeah, so now we are again raising another round after opening in Brazil.
And you were able to raise money from U.S. And Latin America. What advice would you give to other founders about raising money, and also from is it different from the U.S. and LatAm?
Yes, like what I see is like the US investors are much more faster. Rather say no than say yes. Like in Latin America, it's much more slower. Like the due diligence is much more longer. In I think the US investors have the deal follow process much more like understood understand. Like they know what to ask. They know what to ask in the meetings. They are super fast, and they said they say fast, and they say yes fast. So it's much better for the investors. I think it's comparing for the in my previous startups. It's much better now also in Latin America. So it's normal now. The US market is much more developed than the Latin American. So in the next years will be much better also. What I remember is that when this year we received also an investment from Mars in the Leap Venture Studio. That it's a program organized by Mars Pet Care, that is the largest company in the industry of the world. The owner of Pedigree and Royal Canin and Okanua, and also RGA Ventures, that is a famous media company. The Mickelson Found Animals, that is one of the largest pet not non-profit organizations in the US.
That's really interesting. And so, if you were, say, a founder doing a marketplace in Latin America, would you recommend that they go direct to the US to raise funds, to Latin America first, or try to do both at the same time?
I no, I think it's to get attention is easier in if you are focusing in Latin America, it's hard to get attention from the US. Actually, we receive investment from the US investors. Uh, like social capital has this start looking abroad. So we had some connections because of our previous startups or from one investor from here, and the other US investor was an investor in our previous startup that invested in us because we were in 500 startup Mountain View. So it's not easy. So you need some connection. You need to found investors that look outside the US. There are more and more now because there are so big exits now with Rappi is doing great, the corner shop exit, so they are more looking outside the US. So, but it's easier to get a local investor because they see you growing in their market by far, and you for sure it's easier to get to talk with them because they always know one friend of you or someone knows you, so you get the intro pretty easy.
And in the business, you mentioned earlier that you acquired a company in Brazil. Can you talk me through that process and why you decided to acquire to go into Brazil rather than just starting from scratch?
Yeah, so we have been working with this company for a while. Um, yeah, so we always want to be in Brazil because it's the largest pet market in Latin America and also one of the largest in the world. So when we pitched that from the beginning, we saw like Latin America, the market of Latin America. There were 170 million pets, but 100 million pets from Brazil. So if we address Brazil, Mexico, and Argentina, we get 80% of the market. So we want to go to Brazil, and well, we made a negotiation, and and we really like the team of Pet Ancho, so we we did this acquisition. Um, yeah, that more or less the story.
And what's it been like as an Argentine who's lived in Mexico to start to do business in Brazil and actually live in Sao Paulo?
Well, I'm like less than 1 month here, so I cannot tell you much about that. But it's always different, and when you talk with the other, you need like a local partnership, like a local partner, for sure. I think because the laws are difficult, the type of the Brazilians trust Brazilians also more than the other people. So it's better to have a local partner for sure. And it's super big market, and uh, yeah, it's hard. I think it's harder than the other markets, and it has a lot of bureaucracy. I think also.
So one thing you mentioned is that you had angel investors and friends and family who invested in both of your businesses, and I think that successful entrepreneurs who get an exit and then go back into angel investing or maybe even starting their own funds are one of the big pieces of the ecosystem that we need in LatAm to move it forward. And you've started to make angel investments. Can you talk me through one, the companies that you've invested in or company that you've invested in, and why you decided to start doing some angel investing?
Yeah, so I invest in oipido.com. That well, why I invested them because they are looking to solve a problem that I saw very like in front of me in my previous business. That was the food delivery during the midday. So in my food delivery company, we have like 80% of the orders at night. But we didn't ever understand why. Why? Because a lot of people order during the lunch, but it was like in general people don't order on lunch. And so Pido, I met this Nicolas from Pido, and he explained me what he was doing and how he was growing only in the lunch. So I was really excited, and I think I can also help him in a lot of knowledge that I have after 3 or 4 years working in food delivery. So I decided to invest, and also I like call some friends to invest also in Oipido. So we make like a little fund, to invest on them, like very early stage, super early stage. And it's very interesting the story of Oipido because they started in some way like B2C, and then they changed to B2B, and they are growing great. They connect caterings with the company. So and the companies pay like some lunch or all the lunch or some lunch to their to their employees. They are all prepared, but and they have to order the day before, so they are not food waste, and they calculate perfect, and so it is in charge of the technology and also for the delivery. Um, they are growing great, actually. Yes,
And what market are they in?
in Argentina.
It's interesting. It's almost like the original seamless web model.
In the other way around, yeah.
Yeah. No, very interesting. And do you plan on making more angel investments and mentoring other entrepreneurs in the region?
Angel investment not for now because I'm very focused in what I'm doing, and I even don't like what I like of investing in IP is like to understand what, like to help them. So I think I don't have many time now. So maybe after Cuida Mi Mascota, maybe I will. Yeah, I want to do that also.
So what's next for Cuida Mi Mascota?
Yeah, so we have a super challenge here in Brazil and also in Mexico and Argentina. We are raising a good round now. And yes, we have to grow a lot here in Mexico also. This is like the market in general is start to grow, so and it's getting hot everywhere, like in the world, like in the US. There are two companies that raise huge rounds. WAG that they're focused in dog walking. They raised 300 million from SoftBank. Uh, Rover also acquired their competition, and they raised also like 300 million. And they start in Europe. In Europe, there's another one that grow in 6 countries. So it's getting super hot, the market.
And do you have any books, blogs, podcasts, documentaries that you like to recommend either to other entrepreneurs about starting businesses or just to other people about anything that you like?
Yes. Well, what I read in general, like every day, is Twitter. Like a lot of guys in the startup world, like Mark Suster, that has also a blog, like to both sides of the table. Um, ah, um, I have a like blackout. Then Quora, there's some guys that like Jameson Lenkin, that he's more in another topic like SAS, but he's very good, and he's very active in Quora. You have to follow him. Um, and then I read some books that were cool, like maybe now it's old, but the famous of this guy, the MVP, the Lean Startup, was really good. And the one of Peter Thiel was also very good, From One to Zero. I like it. Well,
And
TechCrunch, I always follow their news. For Latin America, especially, I think Pulso Social is good. Yeah, I follow a lot of people in Twitter, actually.
and if you could go back to when you started your first business, knowing what you know today, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, you should have at least one tech founder. That's a great advice. Um, and you have to know your partners like very well, and think that if they can live with few money, and if things go wrong, keep working hard, and if they can work like a lot of time, that's very important. And yes, if you want to raise money, like start like talking with investors from the beginning, and know, because sometimes take a lot of time after they cannot put the money one in the first moment, but maybe in the future they can. So that's like my ideas.
And where do you see the Latin American ecosystem going over the next, say, 2 to 5 years?
Well, I think there are big hits now, like just now, like Corner Shop being acquired for a lot of, like more than 200. Rappi is a new unicorn. Like there were no unicorns since the companies created in the first internet, like Despegar, Mercado Libre. They were like very old, like from the 2000 or 1999. There's now like companies that are unicorns, and they are created in the last 5 years. So I think it's a great moment, and you can see like a lot of famous investors investing in Latin America, and the adoption of the internet is super high now. So, and I think it's great moments of Latin America.
Well, I look forward to watching you continue to grow and have a positive impact on the Latin American ecosystem as it continues to grow. So, thanks a lot for taking the time to do it. I really enjoyed hearing your story and learning a little bit more about your businesses. So, thanks again for doing it.
Thanks, Nathan, for you to call me.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of Crossing Borders with Nathan Lustig. If you did, please share it with a friend. It's one of the best ways to support entrepreneurs like Ignacio in Latin America. You can find previous episodes on nathanlustig.com, iTunes, or Stitcher. Please feel free to subscribe there. And if you really like it, please give us a rating. It really helps other people find the podcast and learn more about what's happening in Latin America. Thanks again to Angel and Sofia for their work editing and producing this podcast. Hope you have a great rest of your day.